and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see very important articles that appear in our today's Hindu newspaper, and actually there are very less number of articles which are relevant from our UPSC point of view in our today's paper. So we are going to see all those articles in detail. First of all, I'll let you know the topics of the day, and later on I'm going to discuss them from both prelims, mains and as well as interview point of view, and at last I'll be giving you the prelims practice questions as well. So first topic it is about NGT gives clearance to Great Nicobar project. So this article is talking about an update related to this Great Nicobar project. Here you have to see what is this Great Nicobar project, what is this NGT, and why now NGT gave the clearance. What are the reasons? You have to know all of them, and it is important from your GS papers under environment, and you'll be studying about this NGT in your polity under non-constitutional bodies. Our next topic is exercise Vajragat. If you are getting that kind of exercises, obviously you can expect a prelims based question from your UPSC prelims point of view. So you have to see that, and that is important from your difference from GS paper 3. Our next topic is cities of debt. This article is talking about urban local bodies. Here you have to see what is the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, and this article is exactly talking about the problems faced by these urban areas, especially related to finances. So you have to see certain schemes related to this development of urban areas, and you have to see what is the way forward. And this topic is important from polity and as well as economy point of view. Our next topic is India's federalism is indeed of structural reset. So this article is very important because it is directly talking about federalism. In your polity, you have this concept called as unitary system and federal system. So here you have to see about what does this federalism exactly mean, and you have to see what are the provisions in our constitution talks about this federalism and what is the significance of federalism. And now you have to see what are the challenges we are facing in Indian federal system, and this topic is important from your polity. And there is one more article regarding this denotified tribes. Already we discussed about this article in our class regarding the census. We are going to have a separate column for this denotified tribes, right? So again there is one article related to this. You have to revise certain facts related to this denotified tribes, because in 2019 or 18 there was a question regarding this PVTGs in your UPSC prelims. That means there is a very high chance of getting nomadic, semi-nomadic, denotified tribes in your 2026 prelims case. So you have to see this article from prelims point of view. Okay, look at the title. NGT gives clearance to Great Nicobar project. First of all, tell me what is this Nicobar project and what kind of development we are doing in this area. Okay, tell me. So here we have our Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are nothing but continuation of our Himalayas, and it is located in which ocean, in which sea? Bay of Bengal, and it is part of Indian Ocean region. Okay, now we are going for development of Great Nicobar project in this location, right? Now you guys tell me what are the developments that we are going to do in this project. First one is we are building greenfield or brownfield airport. What is difference between greenfield and brownfield? What is green and what is brown? Green is nothing but it is a first hand port. Brown is nothing but it is second hand. That is a simple way. So first one is we are going for development of greenfield airport. Next. And next one is transshipment port. And next what we are developing? Third one is township area. And to provide power supply for all these things, we are going for power plant. So these are the four things that we are going to develop in this Nicobar project. And you guys tell me what are the challenges related to this project. First one is it will affect coral reefs. Next is, it is going to affect which animal species? 3 animal species are going to be getting affected. What are they? First one is leatherback turtles. Next, first one is leatherback turtles. Next one is Nicobar megapods. And one more, Nicobar tree shrew. So these are the 3 major animal species going to be affected because of this project. And next one is, it is going to affect tribals also. Complete displacement of which tribals going to be happen because of this project? Only 2 tribes, Shompen. Next one is Nicobaris. Nicobaris and Shompen are two tribal groups. They are going to be completely displaced. And one point that you have to remember is, all this tribal population or all these tribal groups which are present in this Andaman and Nicobar comes under this PVTJs, except this Nicobaris. Nicobaris is not PVTJ, but other tribes like Onge, Shompen, Andamanis, Jarawas, Nicobaris, Sentinelese, all these tribal groups comes under this PVTG, but Nicobaris is not under that category of PVTG. This may be a question, and this Nicobaris is going to be displaced from this area because of this project. Okay, are you getting? So you may get even a repeated question on this PVTGs. How you can expect a question is, consider the following tribal groups. In this tribal groups, they will give both combination of inland and as well as Andaman and Nicobar tribal groups belonging to this PVTGs. In that, they will also add this Nicobaris. And as you know, this Nicobar present in this Andaman and Nicobar, you will be thinking that this also comes under this part of PVTG. But only one tribal group in this Andaman and Nicobar does not comes into this PVTG is Nicobaris. Remember that point and keep star mark on that. Okay, so these are the challenges. Next one is environmental damage can happen, loss of forest area. In one of our article, I said how many trees that we are going to cut because of this project. Anyone? 80,000? Think once again. Only 80,000? Think, check about that data. I already made to write in your book. So check once. So these are the problems. So because of this environmental challenges, forest clearance, and these animals are going to lose their biodiversity, finally NGT said that we cannot give clearance to this project. And finally, now what this article is saying that from 2022 onwards, NGT is showing resistance to give clearance to this project. And finally, now in 2026, NGT gave clearance to this project. So because of this, it is in news. Okay, so how can you get a question related to this NGT is, in your polity Lakshmikant, you have constitutional bodies and as well as non-constitutional bodies, right? What is the difference between this constitutional and non-constitutional bodies? What is the major difference? Constitution is nothing but if there is any article in your constitution talks about it, it is a constitutional body. Examples for constitutional bodies? Recently we discussed about Finance Commission, we have UPSC, we have SPSC. Next. Next. Okay, SPSC, UPSC. Next. Other examples of constitutional bodies. Election Commission of India. Okay, what is the statutory body then? If you are making or establishing any body based on one act, that is called a statutory body. Recently we discussed about NHRC, SHRC, and other examples. Anyone? GST. GST is a constitutional body. Next. Okay, Lokpal, Lokayuktas. We have CIC, Central Information Commission, State Information Commission, based on Right to Information Act. In the same way, NGT is also a statutory body, it is not a constitutional body. You may get this kind of question. Consider the following bodies. Which of the above are constitutional bodies? Okay, that is a one possible question. Next question is, they'll give you body and they will give you constitutional body, statutory body, executive body. In that way also you may get pair based question. Okay, so you have to be very careful while solving such kind of questions. Okay, now let us go to this article and let us see the present context. A bench of National Green Tribunal cleared 92,000 crore rupees Great Nicobar Island mega project. Why? Because it is a strategic importance project for our country. So because of some reasons, now NGT gave the clearance. Now let us see exactly what are the reasons for this clearance. Please make a note. First one here is, this project is strategic national importance because it will provide security for our country, it will provide defense related facilities, and socio-economic development can happen in this India's geopolitical location. Why you have to know about these reasons for clearances? It will be a mains based question. How the question will be? Recently NGT gave clearance for this Great Nicobar project. Discuss the reasons behind this clearance. Or else you may get, what is the strategic importance of this Great Nicobar project which led to the clearance of NGT. So like that also you will be getting a mains based question for 10 marker. So there you can write 4 to 5 important points with substantiation, then your work is done. Because for the 10 marker question you will be writing your answer within 150 words only. So this, if you are expanding this 4 to 5 points, then your work is done. So first one here is, this project is of national importance and it is going to provide security, defense, and as a socio-economic development in this in island nations. And this one here is, this island is very much near to international shipping routes, which is a choke point which is very much near to this Andaman and Nicobar, Strait of Malacca. That example is Strait of Malacca. Like that you have to give example. Second reason is, it is very much near to this international shipping routes. It is very important for India's trade. And next one here is, yes, we are focusing on even conservation and monitoring programs, and also we have focusing on this mangrove restoration. So because of certain steps already taken by our government related to the protection of environment, we are not going to have that much concerns regarding this protection and conservation in this area, because already India is doing mangrove restoration. So recently we discussed about Tamil Nadu state and how it is overcoming its mangrove related problems. So because of this time you may get for sure a question related to this mangroves. So you may get question regarding mangroves in this way. Like already UPSC in 2019 they asked questions like, mangroves are called as kidneys of our environment. Why? And next one is, what are the characteristics of mangrove plants? You may get. And next one here is, they'll give you certain regions and they may ask you, in which of the following regions we can see mangroves in India. Or else you may get in this way. The question is, they'll give you the states and they'll ask you to arrange in ascending order or descending order related to the mangroves. In which states we have maximum mangroves in India? After that, second, think. Assam? Think once. Tamil Nadu. Next. If you want to get that data, you have to go for forest, Indian Forest Survey data of 2023. 2023 is the latest version. So go through that data, then you will be getting each and every data related to the forest cover. Like they will be giving you the data regarding forest cover by area, forest cover by the number of trees, and you have to see mangroves. For sure this year in one or other way you will be getting question related to the mangroves. You have to focus on that from environment point of view, guys. Okay, and next one here is, this tribunal is also saying that there is no violation of coastal regulation zone as well. So because of this they gave environmental clearance for this project. And next one here is, they are saying that they are going to have a balanced approach, because on one side we have national forest policy, as over 2/3 of island would remain forest post development also. That means after once we are going for the development project in this region, around 2/3 of this island will be further remaining in this forest area only. So because of this, it is not going to affect any national park or wildlife sanctuary. So because of this, they are going to give this clearance for this project. Okay, that is the thing. And next major thing here is it is going to be a national asset for our country. If we are not having that kind of developmental projects, if you're not having complete security and defense related areas, means obviously it will become a threat for our country. So on all these reasons, now NGT gave the clearance for this project. Okay, now let us see some facts regarding this NGT. NGT is a statutory body which established under National Green Tribunal Act 2010. Please make a note of this act and year. In UPSC, they will be confusing you by giving the wrong year. So you have to remember years of major acts also, guys. And next one here is it will be focusing on the disposal of cases related to environmental protection, and it will take the cases related to conservation of forest and other natural resources. Three important things that you have to remember regarding this NGT. It will take cases related to environment protection, conservation of forest, and as well as natural resources. And India became the third country in the world to establish a separate organizations which are focusing on only environment. Before India, Australia and New Zealand, please make a note, Australia and New Zealand are the two countries. They set up a separate organizations for the protection of environment, and India is the third one now. In developing country, India is the first one. Okay, in developing countries, India is the first country to establish a separate organization. And NGT is mandated to make disposal of applications or appeals finally within 6 months of the filing of the case. Okay, next one here is if you see the structure of this NGT, we have a chairperson and we have the judicial members and expert members as part of it. And tenure here is 3 years or till 65 years, very, very important. And one more thing you have to remember is once they acted as the members of this NGT, again they are not eligible to be the part of this NGT once again. That is a one more thing because they want to maintain more accountability and transparency. Okay. And next one here is chairperson is appointed by central government in consultation with Chief Justice of India. And for selection of other members, we are going to have a selection committee. And maximum numbers here is 20 full-time members and minimum is 10 members. Okay, see that once. And on this also you may get a question. And already earlier UPSC asked question related to this NGO in your prelims. Just check once the PYQ related to this NGT. Okay, see this next article. You can see an image, right? What is this image? What can you see here? It is a desert. You can see sand. Next one is you can see tanks. Do you know tanks? If you go to this tank bund also, you can. They already showcased old tanks for this for display purpose. Have you been to this tank bund? You can see them. Okay, they are tanks. What can we do by these tanks? Any idea? What we'll do? Wars. What exactly we can do with these tanks? Firing of bombs. Okay. Can you tell me how much distance these bombs can be dropped once we fire this bomb? Any idea? Till how many kilometers? Who will use these tanks? Navy people will use, or army people, or air force people? Air force people will not use for sure, right? Then who will use? Army people will use. Okay. So the name of these tanks are K9 Vajra tanks. Please make a note. K9 Vajra tanks. K9 Vajra tanks. K9 Vajra tanks. K9 Vajra tanks. Okay, so now whatever the image you are seeing, it is about showcasing of K9 Vajra tanks, and the name of this exercise is Vajra Ghat. Vajra Ghat. Vajra Ghat. Okay, now let us see about this exercise and certain facts regarding this K9 Vajra. So this Vajra Ghat exercise is mainly done by White Tiger Division of Southern Command at Pokhran Field Firing Range. In this Pokhran Field Firing Range, they are going for this kind of exercise. Why? Because they want to showcase their combat capabilities of K9 Vajra gun system, and they're going to check their techniques, procedures, and speed of firing, and even precision. Precision means nothing but whether they are reaching the target or not correctly. Okay, so all these things they are checking in this exercise. And if you see about this K9 Vajra, it is 155 mm 52 caliber tracked artillery system. And by using this system, we can drop bombs. And if you see the area, how much we can do here is that gun carries around 50 tons of weight and it can fire 47 kgs of bombs. And next one here is it can strike enemy targets for 50 kilometers. Only if enemy targets are at 50 kilometers, then only we can use it. Beyond 50 kilometers, this is not that much useful. So you have to remember this 50 kilometers. Yeah, that's it, guys. It is mainly used by our army. Okay, see this next article. Cities of debt. ULBs need more administrative capacity before they can tap the market. So this article is talking about urban areas. Okay. So what is an urban area? What is a city? According to you, what is the meaning of an urban area? So how can you differentiate between rural area and urban area? How can you differentiate? Based on population. Okay, next. First, basic criteria on which we can differentiate rural and urban areas. Rural areas, economy is based on agriculture. Urban areas, economic activities will be based on mostly services and as well as industrial sector. Secondary and tertiary sector is seen in urban areas. In rural areas, major activity is agriculture. And other things, what can you see in urban areas and rural areas? How can you differentiate? Infrastructure, rural, yes, seasonal employment, and we can see continuous employment in urban areas. And what about infrastructure, development, healthcare facilities, education? We have good facilities in urban areas compared to that of rural areas. Next. Next. Okay, tell me. When we came up with our constitution, when we enforced our constitution in that at that time, do we have any articles related to this panchayats or municipalities in our constitution? No. Later on, we made the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Can you tell me year? 1990? Yeah, 2. And we included this panchayats and as well as municipalities in our constitution. Can you tell me which are the articles talks about this panchayats and municipalities? 243 alphabets. Okay, 243 to 240 O talks about panchayats. Then municipalities 243 after up to ZH we have municipalities. Okay, now tell me important types of municipalities. How many types? We have cantonment area, we have port cities. Next one is municipal corporation. Next, types. How many types we have at least? Polity is done. Kiran. And how many? Only 3. Not 3. Not 4. Srimant. Municipal corporation, municipality, cantonment area, port cities. Next, Notified area. Very good. Next. Kishore, you wrote exam of polity. Polity? What happened, Kiran? No, no. Okay, tell me what is the difference between notified area and cantonment area? Cantonment area. In Hyderabad also we have lots of cantonment area. In Secunderabad, okay, lots of areas. What is a cantonment area? Which is under control of which ministry? Military. Which ministry? No, no. It comes under Ministry of Defense. Ayyo, have you filled your form? Application form for UPSC? In that, have you gave the preferences for services? In that, there is one service to maintain the land of defense. No idea. Very good, guys. You have to work in that cantonment areas if you are getting that service. You have to maintain the land belongs to defense. You have to know about that. Because of that only I asked that question. Have you filled your form? Very good. Have you kept that service allocation for that also? But you don't know what is cantonment area. Very good. Very nice. Okay. So after this class, please study about this municipalities, guys. Okay. Keep it that aside. And now my another question is, do we have any programs or the schemes of the government where government is focusing on improving of urban areas? Any programs is government is focusing on? Huh? Okay, smart cities. What is a smart city according to you? It is an interview question actually. What is a smart city? How can you define a smart city in your own way? Development based on internet, only internet access is enough? What is a smart city? What do you think? Smart city. You are a very smart guy. I think you might have heard about this word. What is the meaning of smart to you? Smart means smart city. Proper planning in terms of in terms of what exactly? Smart means what? Harappan civilization. My sincere suggestion, guys, if you are coming across this kind of words, don't just mug up that words. Try to understand the meaning. In interview, the question will be on that only. What is smart city? What is smart according to you? This is one interview question in the final interview. I'm not talking about the mock interview. In final interview, because that student gave in his achievements, he wrote something related to the essay in smart cities. He won the first prize or like that. So here on that basis of achievements, they asked a question: what is smart city and what is smart according to you? So like that, you have already completed your application forms. So what are the word which is there in your DAF? You have to know each and everything about your DAF. I'll tell you one smart question which mainly asked by the final interviewer. That guy came from Jalgaon district. You know this Jalgaon? Have you heard this Jalgaon? Jal is not there in Jalgaon. Why it is called as Jalgaon? So this is the interview question. Once the result is out, I will also publish each and every student's transcript also. I have every student's transcript. So interviews will be going on every day, right? I'll be in contact with them every day. So after their interview once done, they will send their transcript. Transcript is nothing but when they entered into the room till they come outside, they will tell each and everything. So which member asked which question, how chairman addressed them, and how they replied, everything they will be writing in a format that is called as interview transcripts. So once result is out, I will be sharing with you also regarding that transcript, and you will be coming to know like how questions can be asked. No one will be doing that. I'll be doing that for you guys so that you can understand how this conceptual clarity is very important. Interview is not about testing your knowledge, because already your knowledge had been tested in prelims and mains. Prelims and mains is about your knowledge testing, but interview is about testing your personality, whether you are a personality of clear thoughts or not. They need to get that. Everyone knows smart city. Everyone knows about uh, already lots of schemes in the news. But what is according to you? Whether you're developing your own perspective or not, that will be checked in the interview. It is not at all knowledge test. So that may go from 35 minutes to 45 minutes. In that 35 minutes to 45 minutes, they will analyzing your capacity, whether you are suitable to that post or not. That means you have to show always the clear thoughts, and you have to be confident, and your communication should be top notch, and you should try to uh, express your views clearly, because as a district collector, you if you want to held a meeting, every in your district, every person will be attending that meeting. So how clearly you're expressing your thoughts, that is very important, right? If you're not having good communication skills, can you express the things? Can you make people to follow all those things? People will believe in you? No, right? So for that, they will be checking communication skills, how clearly you are expressing your thoughts, whether you are a broad minded or narrow minded. As a civil servant, they will check only for the broad minded people, not narrow minded people. So whether you are broad minded person or not, so if you know something, how you are interpreting that in the negative way or positive way. So always we have to interpret the things in the positive way. All these areas were checked in interview within that 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, so from now onwards, if you are coming across something, don't just try to mug it up. Try to know what is that from the basic. Okay, are you understanding? So this is the thing which is required in your interview. After once you see the transcript, you'll be thinking that what kind of questions are they are asking. You'll be getting that kind of things in your mind. But that is the reality of interview. Okay, so here whenever you are starting your preparation, you have to start from interview, not from your prelims or mains, because interview starts with understanding the basic things. If you start understanding the basic things, and based on that you have to build step by step, and in your prelims you will be gathering the facts, in your mains you will be adding your analytical skills. When you can develop analytical skills is when you understand everything from the basic only, then you can develop your analytical skills. Unless and until if you don't know anything from the basic, you cannot develop your analytical skills case. So once result is out, result will be released by 5th to 7th of this March. On that day itself, I will be sharing the transcripts in your groups. Then you can understand like how the questions are, what kind of questions you are asking. Then you will be getting an idea like how exactly the interview questions will be. Okay, you'll be not having that kind of fear like how the questions will be, how the questions will be. You will be not having that fear. Okay. Okay, now here this article is saying that urban areas are facing problems regarding the funds. Recently, we discussed about 16th Finance Commission recommendations. What are the 16th Finance Commission recommendations is about? Devolution of funds. Okay, what is the recommendation given by the 16th Finance Commission? How much percentage of taxes should be shared with the states? 41. There is no change between 15th and 16th Finance Commission recommendation. Both are following the same. So here this year, for sure, you will be getting questions regarding this Finance Commission from your constitutional bodies. Check that clearly, guys. Don't miss each and every word, line to line. You have to read related to this Finance Commission from your polity. Okay. So here it is saying about 41 percentage of taxes which is collected by the center to be shared with the states. And even we have horizontal devolution. What is this horizontal devolution? In the states also we have developed states, we have less developed states, we have developing states. So based on their population, based on their forest cover, based on their development, so they are going to get funds which is different from one state to another state. So actually what is happening here is this Finance Commission will also give recommendations related to the grants for this panchayats and municipalities. So actually what is happening? What are the funds which are getting by these urban areas is not at all sufficient. And even whatever the powers which are there for these urban areas to generate the revenue is also very limited. So because of this, whenever we are coming with any other schemes related to development of urban bodies, they are not completely done in urban areas. So because of this, in urban areas also, we are having lots of problems related to the road, traffic, infrastructure, drainage problems because of this lack of funds. This is about this article. Are you understanding? So you have to see about in clearly related to the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Anyone writing this TGPSC this year? Are you planning to write TGPSC? If you are planning to write TGPSC also, recently municipality elections had been done and even panchayat elections had been done. 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act will be very important for that TGPSC. Okay? In that way, try to guess the topics. And one more thing here is the students who are writing this year prelims, I'll be giving you the list of important topics from the polity. If I sit for one day, I can finalize the topics on which you can expect the questions from your prelims. I'll be giving that topics, and you have to do extensive study on that current affairs based topics, guys. Okay, who are writing this year, not for all. Okay, now let us see this article. This article is talking about the financial challenges faced by urban local bodies in India. The first important problem here is they are having unfinished schemes. So the schemes related to the development of urban areas are, as I said, first one is smart cities, next one is Amrit program and Swachh Bharat Abhiyan 2.0 and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban component. And this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we have rural component and urban component. In urban areas, we are talking about urban component. So because of this lack of funds, many a times these schemes are unfinished in urban areas. You have to remember the schemes: Amrut, Smart Cities, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Every year, minimum 3 questions you can expect from the schemes in your prelims. Okay, you have to see whichever the schemes you are in use, you have to do in detail study. Whenever you are reading schemes, what you have to focus is, first one is full form of that scheme. Next one is whether it is central sector schemes or center sponsored scheme. Next one is which is that scheme is under which ministry, Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Women and Social Justice. So you have to see under which ministry it comes. Next one is primary basic features of that scheme, what government is going to provide under that scheme. Next one is eligibility criteria. So if you focus on these 5 areas, then your work is done. Only these 5 areas for prelims. In mains, if they are giving any schemes related questions, means they will be asking you about how far it is successful, what challenges we are facing related to that scheme, suggest measures. These 3 are the areas will be focused in the mains. But for prelims, which ministry, central sector or central sponsored scheme, basic features, and who are the people eligible for that scheme. So in these areas only they will focus. But for mains, challenges, way forward, and as well as whether we succeeded or it is a failure scheme. Okay, understanding how the question will be different from the same scheme from mains and prelims. Okay, and next one here is they are saying that whatever the powers which are given to these urban local bodies to generate income, they are always weak, poor local taxes, and even whatever the transfers they are getting from the center and state, they are unreliable. So these are the problems faced by these urban local bodies. And even many cities, they lack credible balance sheets. There is no proper accounting and there is no proper municipal capacity. And if they want to borrow also, what happens? It will increase debt. Those are the problems which are mainly faced by this. And what can be done? We have to build capacity before borrowing. We have to strengthen our urban local bodies administration first, and we have to improve audit and accounting system. And next one is we have to go for financial disclosure first, like how much amount of funds they are getting, how much amount of expenditure they are doing, how it is balancing or not. So we need to have a proper system so that we can ask for more and more funds. If you're not having the data, can we ask about the funds? No. And next one is we have to boost our own revenue and autonomy. How can we boost our own revenue? We have to improve our property tax collection, and we have to go for increasing of charges for providing of services. For example, do you know we have to pay house tax, We have to pay water tax. If you're getting municipal water, we have to pay certain amount of money, right? Per monthly basis or per yearly basis. And if you want to get any services to be done from the government, we have to pay challans. Do you know this? So like that, we have to improve the user charges. And this one is we have to improve this non-tax revenues. And we have to increase this physical devolution from this State Finance Commission as well. Okay, and we have to support smaller or weaker cities. We have to expand credit guarantees for smaller urban local bodies. And we have to promote bonds and state level finance vehicles. Okay, that is the case. And next one is we have to come up with the reforms. Like we have to link funding to the governance. Like if they are doing good, we have to give more amount of funds. And this one is we have to plan financial reforms. Okay, so that is the thing. And next article is India's federalism is in need of a structural reset. Who is the author? Can you find who is he? Stalin. Where is he from? Tamil Nadu. What is the issue between central government and Tamil Nadu state? Yes, governor issue. Next, NEET exam issue. 3 language policy issue. Anti-Hindi. That is 3 language policy issue. So there is lots of issues which are going on between central government and Tamil Nadu government. Okay. So here, let us consider this is central government, and we have states here. These are states and these are like center. So if power is present only with central government, which kind of structure we can call it as? Unitary structure. In this unitary structure, entire powers are vested with central government. If there is a sharing of power between central government and state government, what it is called as? Federalism. Federalism is nothing but whenever there is a proper sharing of power between center and state is called as federalism. So now you guys tell me, our India, in our country, do we have unitary structure of government or federal structure of government? We don't have completely unitary and we don't have completely federal. We have quasi-federal. What is the meaning of quasi-federal? It is not something completely unitary, not something completely federal. Because certain provisions of our constitution says that it is tilted towards central government. It is tilted toward unitary. We have unitary bias. Give me some examples where we can see unitary bias. We have governor in the states. Yes or no? States are headed by the governor. Who is appointed this governor? President. That means central government is controlling state through the power called as governor. We are not directly electing our governor. We are electing only CM. Right? But who is governor? Governor is the post who is appointed by president. That means nothing but central government is having control. That is one example which is showing that we don't have complete federalism. And you know about this Article 312? Article 312, what is it? All India services. Where you are writing for this all India service only, right? You are going to become a constitutional post if you are getting through this examination. Okay. So who is appointing you? Central government. But where you will be working? In states. That means again central is trying to use you to control the states. That means again there is unitary bias. Have you heard about this? Article 352, 356, 360, what are they? Emergency provisions. What happens in this emergency provisions? Especially in this Article 356. What is Article 356? President's rule. What is President's rule? In which state this President rule had been lifted? Manipur. Apart from this Manipur, even Jammu and Kashmir also. That means this Article 356 very important for your prelims again. So like that you have to expect certain topics where UPSC can ask a question. In polity, overall you will be getting 17 to 20 questions. Out of this, 5 will be directly from static only. And remaining will be the combination of static plus current affairs or solely current affairs. So you have to expect that which kind of topics can be given in your examination. You can expect Out of the 17, you can expect at least 13 to 14 topics for sure, if you're having a good command on current affairs. Okay, now you guys tell me what happens in this president's rule or state emergency or constitutional emergency. State will comes under direct control of center. That means again central government is more powerful whenever there is imposition of emergency. So here, because of this kind of some examples, we can say that our India is not completely federal form of government. We are having a unitary tilt. So because of this, it is called as quasi-federalism. But now you guys tell me, how can you say about federal features? What are the examples which say that yes, India is having a federal type of government? Which schedule is this? Number? Yes. We have schedule number 7, which talks about union list, state list, concurrent list. What are this list? There are certain subjects which are placed in that list, and it will tell about who is having the power to make laws on that subject. If that subjects are present in the union list, central government is having power. If subjects are present in state list, state government is having power. In concurrent list, both central government and state government is having the power to make the laws. Okay, so that is the first example. Next example, federal features in our constitution. So you may get question here. They will give you 4 to 5 and they will ask you which of the above are unitary features of constitution, or which of the above are not unitary features, which of the above are federal or not federal. Already UPSC asked this kind of question earlier. So here you have to exactly know about what are the unitary features of our constitution and federal features of our constitution. If you open your Lakshmikant book, I think is at 3rd or 4th chapter, you will be having this thing, federal and unitary features. Go through that clearly, guys, because Stalin, he wrote an article related to the federalism, and this topic is there in your direct syllabus. There is a very high chance of getting questions regarding federal features of Indian constitution. Are you understanding? Okay, now let us see this clearly. What is a federalism? Federalism refers to a system of government in which power is divided between central government and as well as state government. And if you see the features of federalism, first one is division of power. As you said, we have Schedule 7 of Indian Constitution, which divides the power between central and as well as state government. And this one is supremacy of constitution, is the second important feature. Federalism is based on written constitution. If something is written, it is difficult to change. If something is not written, it is easy to change, right? If something is written means we are going to have a clear-cut evidence that this is the power of state, this is the power of center. So it is one example of federalism, so that we can enhance checks and balances. Do you know this word, checks and balances? So we have 3 important organs of the government. What are they? Legislature, executive and judiciary. So legislative have its own work, executive is having its own work, and judiciary is having its own work. If so and so organ, if it is exceeding its limits, judiciary will interfere, executive will interfere, and it will stop to exceed its limit. If judiciary is exceeding its limit, executive will come into picture and legislative will come into picture, and they will try to stop to do that. Are you understanding? So this concept is called as checks and balances. If something is written clearly, then only we can understand what is the power of legislature, what is the function of executive. We can check whether they are exceeding their limits or not. So this is one example of federal feature of our Indian Constitution. And this one is independent judiciary. We have Supreme Court, we have High Court, we have subordinate court. So all these are having their own functions. So in this way you are maintaining independence of judiciary. And next one here is we have bicameral legislature. What is bicameralism? 2 houses. Yes. In states we have assembly and as well as council. At the central level we have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So we are having this bicameral legislature. One will be representing the people. That means the people of assembly and as well as the people of Lok Sabha, they are elected by the people directly. That is called as representation of people. And other will represent the regional governments. And this one is we have flexibility. Federalism allows the flexibility in sharing of powers between central and regional governments, and it will also allows for adjustments as well. So in this way, we are maintaining the federal features of our constitution. So why it is important? Because as you all know that India is having the huge diversity. For example, you can take language, culture, religion, regions, clothing, and even eating of food habits, food styles, etc. So if you want to maintain unity, for sure we need to have this federalism. If you're not having federalism, then what happens? People will revolt against government, and that will lead to the destruction. Yes. So first one is to accommodate the diversity of our country, and we have to maintain our own efforts, and we have our own unique needs. For that, we are focusing on federalism. And this one is effective governance. If states are having their own powers, if central is having their own powers, they will do their work without interfering in any other arena. So that what happens, we can ensure smooth working of our governance system. And this one is we have to promote democracy. And this one is we have to protect the rights of the people and as well as rights of the government. So for all these things, federalism is very, very important. Are you understanding? And next, see this article, guys. A separate classification for denotified tribes. What we discussed recently in our earlier classes. Union government assured community leaders from denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribe that they are going to have a separate column, so that they will be later on adding into this SC or ST or OBC based on their socio-economic category status, and they will be eligible for this government schemes. That is the thing that we discussed. The same thing which is given here, you have to see this area. Who are these denotified tribes? In our earlier class, we discussed that whenever the Britishers entered into this forest areas, they started exploiting the resource in these forest areas. At that time, these people, they attacked them. Sometimes they threw stones, sometimes they attacked by these talwars or the weapons they have, and they listed them as criminals. They notified them as criminal tribes. And after once we got independence, we removed them from that notified list. From then we are calling them as denotified tribes. But these tribes, they are not categorized whether into SC or ST or OBC. So because of this, they are not able to reap the benefits of government schemes. So now in this census, we are going to have a separate column, and after once we get this list, we can classify them based on their socio-economic status, so that they will be eligible for the schemes. That is about this. So just go through this once. What is this denotified tribes? You may get a question regarding this. How can you get a question? Here is consider the following statements regarding this denotified tribes. They'll give you 2 to 3 statements, and you have to focus on that. Okay, see these questions, guys. Consider the following statements. The process of including a tribe in scheduled tribes and scheduled tribes list under Article 342 involves consultation with governor, highlighting the federal feature of the constitution. Denotified tribes are being historically stigmatized communities are automatically classified as scheduled tribes if they meet the criteria of primitiveness and isolation. Third one, any modification to SC/ST list notified by the president can be done by the executive through a subsequent notification without requiring parliamentary legislation. Which of the statements given above or is not correct? Are you understanding? I'll come to this question later on. Next, see this. Consider the following pairs regarding features of Indian federalism. First one, division of powers, federal feature, emergency provision, unitary feature, appointment of governors, federal feature, independent and Supreme Court, federal feature. Which of the pairs given above are correctly matched? All. Which of the features are Indian federalism? Yes, online students, by this I'm concluding. So please do give your answers in the comment box. Don't forget, guys. By this I'm concluding. And if you like this class, please to hit the like button and please to share this class to your friends. And already CSAT classes had been started here in our academy. And if you are weak in CSAT, you can take this CSAT course on online or offline. For further details regarding the CSAT course, please do contact on this number 8074765513. Thank you so much, guys.